Over the past couple months, our investigative team has been uncovering alarming issues in a broken system, leaving victims of domestic violence unprotected and in fear. Right now, nearly 35% of women in California experience violence from a partner. Tonight, you'll hear from one survivor and why the system failed to properly monitor her abuser. And she's not alone. Monique wanted to share her story as part of her healing process. You'll also hear from people in charge who are trying to make things better. But we do want to warn you, what you are about to see are images of abuse, and it may be very difficult to watch. Here's investigative reporter Andy Judson with Surviving the System, Domestic Violence in California.
He comes off as a very, charming, charismatic, good-looking guy.
Monique says she and her now ex-boyfriend fell in love fast.
What I did find about getting to know him so quickly was he has a lot of underlying issues.
Issues she noticed that started manifesting in their relationship. First with name calling.
To pinches behind my arm because I said something he didn't like and we were in front of people.
To protect Monique, we decided to only use her first name. We offered Monique the option to remain anonymous, but it was important to her to show her face and tell her story.
When I tried to get away or break away from him, that was the worst thing it seemed like I could do to him.
She says she tried to leave several times.
He could not be alone. It went directly to, I'm gonna kill myself, you are everything I ever wanted, I'm not trying to mess this up. I wanted to give him a chance. Well, one chance turned into 10,000.
She recalls feeling trapped.
He wouldn't leave me alone. He would come to my house, bang on my door until I opened it, park across the street for days.
She provided this video as an example of how many times he would call her, despite blocking his number, she says.
It got to a point where I basically knew I wasn't going to get out of that relationship.
Meanwhile, she says it escalated physically.
I had gotten really used to how well to put on makeup covering up black eyes.
Then, during a trip to Colorado for a friend's wedding,
dragged me out of the bed by my hair.
She says a neighboring hotel guest heard and called 911.
Cops come and they took him away.
He was later sentenced for assault and disturbing the peace.
They then issue his probation.
Colorado allowed him to return to California, designating responsibility of his 1-year probation to Sacramento County.
It was no drinking, no drugs, no guns, no more violations of any sort.
We began investigating California's handling of domestic violence cases and how the system is supposed to work.
Called the Batterers Intervention System, is made up of 3 entities: the court, the probation department, and program providers. When a domestic violence incident occurs and the court places the offender on formal probation, they're assessed and monitored by a county's probation department, then required to register and go through a 52-week program provided by a number of facilities throughout California.
So it really is incumbent on all of 3 of these major players to be playing their role appropriately.
But the California Auditor's Office found in their October 2022 audit, this system is broken at all 3 levels. In probation departments, they discovered a basic lack of guidelines.
The probation departments often did not have policies and procedures within their own departments on their offender supervision.
And when a violation of probation did occur,
the probation departments and the program providers did not report many of the violations to the court.
Monique said she experienced this firsthand. After they returned from Colorado, months passed, and she saw no action from Sacramento probation.
He didn't enroll in his classes. Because they were lagging and they weren't really pushing on anything, things got way worse.
Now, the Sacramento County Probation Department refused to comment on Monique's case. They declined our request for an on-camera interview, but did say in a statement they utilized their limited resources as efficiently and effectively as possible, but are struggling to fill job vacancies within the department, and that's why they have a high caseload ratio.
Monique stayed in the relationship, hoping things might change.
that made it worse. Me trying to help him made it worse.
Just 3 months after he was arrested in Colorado, another altercation here in California.
I show up, he's completely just off the wall drunk, and I go to leave because I was like, I'm done with this, I just can't. And he basically threw me to the ground, did like 5-6 blows to my head. The last thing I really truly remember was just the silhouette of his curly hair and his fist coming down. And he wasn't stopping. My screams, my cries, my everything, nothing was stopping them.
Court records reveal she was left with a number of injuries: a concussion, busted nose and lips, scratch marks on her face, and jaw damage. Reports show Sacramento police arrested him that night. He made bail almost immediately, Monique said, but eventually pled guilty to a felony charge of domestic violence corporal injury.
The forensics team was like, one more blow probably would have cracked your skull and gotten some brain swelling, and if your brain suffocates, you die.
She believes the system failed her.
His probation had been handed over in early September 2021, and if they had just been on it here in California, by December he would not have been able to do what he did.
She got a restraining order in September 2022, and records she provided us with show he violated it and his probation repeatedly.
I would see him out. He chases me down the street, clearly drunk.
She says within 6 months, she had 24 approved police reports from a number of encounters.
Had no issues with this whole like coming within 100 yards thing.
When Monique tried to report these violations directly to his probation officer, both before and after the felony assault, she felt it made no difference.
She basically just responds with, we don't communicate with anyone outside of law enforcement.
Probation officers are empowered by federal law to visit clients anytime, anywhere, and report violations when they find them.
Oh, I don't think they did anything.
Monique says this did not happen.
Nothing. For a year. Until the review date popped up in the system and said, oh, this person, they were on 1-year probation, how are they doing?
It's an example of a broader problem. The auditors found out of 25 offenders they surveyed from 5 different counties, there were 405 probation violations.
And they didn't report 50% of those to the courts.
But even when violations did make it to the court,
essentially the courts would send the offender back to the program and have them re-enroll in the program again.
to start their 52-week program over with no consequence. Some offenders were allowed to restart multiple times.
When they're not attending that program, the risk is that they would re-offend and that there would be future domestic violence cases.
We've known for a long time that the system doesn't work.
Beth Hassett is the CEO of Weave, a rape crisis center in Sacramento. She believes the 52-week program is a problem in itself.
They have to find a program, they have to pay the money, and they have to show up for 52 weeks. I think we're really setting people up to fail. And in many cases, it's really like poking the tiger. It just makes them angry every week that they have to go to this thing.
To her, the audit's findings are nothing new.
Well, I think it's really disheartening for survivors because here they've got the person that was abusing them and nobody's making them do the things that they're supposed to be doing. So it adds to that feeling that there is no hope and there is no justice in this world.
She believes the system doesn't have enough resources to hold offenders accountable.
Probation doesn't have the staff power to keep an eye on all the people they're supposed to be keeping an eye on.
Through public records requests, we found Sacramento County Probation has an average caseload size of 73 clients to each officer.
I mean, the caseloads are ridiculous for the probation officers. There's no way they can really keep track of what that many people are doing.
And in many cases, no 2 probation departments have the same standards.
Because oftentimes somebody's arrested in a county they don't even live in, and the way that county's handling it is completely different from how the county they live in would be handling things.
For Monique, not only different counties, but different states. In December, her ex was extradited back to Colorado, where he's currently serving time in jail with no bond. He's scheduled to be released in June. He will remain on formal probation in California for the next 4 years.
To me, obviously, at this point, probation means absolutely nothing. That means nothing. I felt like I just shouldn't go anywhere. Like I just need to stay home. And if I'm caught by myself for any second, you know, like it's scary. It's still scary.
Worse yet, the entities within this system have known for years that they're failing.
Going back as far as 1990, we were able to find past reviews. We're finding problems in those reports, those reviews, that were very similar to the ones we found in this audit.
It's why the California Auditor's Office made an especially drastic recommendation
to establish a state oversight agency. And we specifically asked that that be the Department of Justice.
Because the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state.
DOJ would be responsible for looking at the programs, approving and reviewing them and monitoring them.
But change takes time. Right now, Hassett believes if these entities simply did the jobs they're required by law to do, it would make a huge difference.
Everybody just do your jobs. And if we need to throw more resources at keeping people accountable, I think we should do that. Let's get rid of the excuse that we don't have enough staff, we don't have enough hours in the day, and really give it a try and let's see if we can make it work.
Okay, when we come back, Andy Judson is joining us to discuss some of the changes that victims of domestic violence like Monique are asking for. All right, if you're just now joining us before the break, we shared the story of the broken system when it comes to protecting domestic violence victims here in California. It's something that Andy Judson has really been looking into. And Andy, it is astounding to me that it's not one entity, it's all three entities that are really failing here. My first question, though, is does Monique have a plan when her ex does get released from jail?
Yeah, it's such an important question. And to clarify, all of the charges her ex were facing are coming from two agencies, Denver and Sacramento's district attorney. The case was so serious that both agencies were able to proceed with multiple charges for domestic violence, and he's currently sitting in jail in Denver. But Monique is not confident that she'll be safe once he's released, and that's why she wanted to tell us her story and hopefully fix these systemic failures impacting so many people like Monique, those survivors of domestic violence.
Yeah, and then taking a look at those three entities, I mean, where do you start in even fixing them to help people?
Right, yeah, and it's the question we brought to the California State Auditor, and according to experts we spoke to, there's already a lot of protocols and guidelines in place, but they're not being followed. So just implementing those would be a start. For example, probation departments are in charge of overseeing those 52-week programs for offenders, and often they don't set standards, guidelines, or do on-site visits to ensure programs are operating properly. Just doing that, which is mandated by law, would be a right step in the direction we really need to go.
Yeah. All right, Andy, thank you so much.
Thanks
we appreciate it.
for having me.
All right, when we come back, some of today's talking points we'll have coming up, including some good news if you haven't filed your taxes quite yet. So we'll have that after the break. All right, here are some of the stories that people are also talking about today. The wife of one of the four men killed in a crash last December in Granite Bay has now filed a lawsuit against the driver and a Roseville restaurant. According to the lawsuit, the restaurant was hosting Whiskey Wednesday, which is where the men were coming from. CHP has not said drugs or alcohol were a factor in the crash. The governor announced that some people in California will now have until October 16th to file their taxes. This goes along with federal guidelines that have extended the filing period for people living in places impacted by disasters. And 17% of the state is no longer in any kind of drought. Roughly half of the state is still seeing moderate or severe drought conditions. And we've been telling you about snow totals, but here's a visual. That's a CHP truck. It's about 6 feet, 4 inches tall. So this gives you just a little sense of the snowbanks and what they're looking like
on I-80 at Donner Summit right now. Monica, I saw your face, and I mean, this storm is nowhere near over.
People in other parts of the country cannot believe what they're hearing. They go, wait, 7 feet of snow? That's right. You saw the picture right there with the CHP vehicle. This is up at Donner. Mindy submitting that. Behind there is where she's supposed to be getting her mail. So we've been getting all sorts of photos like that. And thank you so much for helping us tell the weather story. Upload photos on the ABC 10 app to be a part of the Weather Force team. The other part of the story is the very dangerous nature of the snow accumulation. So let's talk for just a second here about snow weight. Now, most roofs can handle about 20 pounds per square foot. So let's put it together with some numbers here in the accumulation. Well, we had roughly about 12 inches of snow at the very lower elevations. Now, the snow liquid ratio, that was about 5-to-1 to 10-to-1 at the very low elevations, but we were running even above 15-to-1 up at the higher elevations. So it wasn't super, super heavy snow. Where we were finding the problems was actually in the upper foothills, where we had a really heavy snowpack. So that will account for about 3 trucks to about a car and a truck. Now, when we talk about 24 inches of snow with that type of snow weight, it's anywhere from about 3 to 6 trucks on top of the rooftops. That's why we're seeing so many dangerous situations up there in the high country and even into the foothills, where that snow ratio, when the snow weight was so heavy, starting to collapse some of those roofs. We had Devin Truby up there talking to one homeowner who was seeing the cracks, and you could hear the creaking. And now we're adding more to it. Winter storm warning back into effect Saturday morning. That takes us through Monday morning with snow level in some pockets down to about 1,000 feet. And the real danger here is the potential for more road closures and snow on top of what you already saw in those pictures. 1 to 4, almost 5 feet of additional accumulation. Tomorrow really is the day to do the digging out, get supplies, or just get out of town to avoid those dangers. We'll have pleasant weather in the valley, highs in the upper 50s, and then everything shifts overnight Friday through Saturday. Winds start to ramp up. Saturday afternoon, we get another blast coming through here about midnight with calmer winds on Sunday afternoon. By that time, we'll be picking up about 1/2 inch to almost 1 inch of rain down low. And as far as this year's snow totals, again, right around 1 to almost 4 feet of additional accumulation on top of what we just saw. Here's the timeline taking us through the start of the weekend. And you can see by Saturday morning, snow starting to pile up in the Sierra. The rain moves in, and that will take us right on through Sunday as well. Highs for tomorrow, the day to dig out and really get those supplies, prepare for the next weather event, right around 40 in the Sierra, 40s down the hill to near 50 along the coast. A great start to that Friday. Morning lows are in the 40s, but those highs right around 60, and in the valley will be right around 60 as well. Another cold day in the morning, but then we'll start to see the warm up in the afternoon. All throughout Northern California, we'll see the rain and snow developing over the weekend, and the 10-day forecast really tells the story. This is going to open things up for more rain next week as well.
All right, when we come back, I had the chance today to help clean up one of the rivers here in Sacramento with some very special guests. Here in Sacramento, it was another beautiful afternoon, and I actually got to spend some time outside with Caltrans over at Matsui Park. And Caltrans and the Sacramento Kings, they hosted a cleanup event to help keep our rivers clean and safe.
I'm with CKM SVIU, and I'm saving the environment.
We're the city of trees also, so we like to say we're the city of trees, not the city of trash.
Doing a lot of pickups, I see a lot of trash everywhere, and it's really sad because I never really saw that side of Sacramento before. And when I was younger, I didn't notice that much trash.
What we're trying to do today, we're trying to get the public to partner with us so that we can create some awareness of just some basic actions that they can do. Don't litter, make sure that you're picking up your pet waste and other things, because as we know, a lot of those things, if left untouched, will flow into our rivers.
Since we began the program about 1.5 years ago, we've already collected over 23,000 tons of litter and debris, and that's enough litter that could span the entire continental United States from Los Angeles to New York City.
Are you excited to pick up the trash?
Oh yeah. It is important because we want to keep our environment clean and safe for everyone.
Let's all be responsible. Please place your litter and debris in the appropriate receptacle.
All right, and if you do want to get involved, Caltrans will have more community events kicking off later this month from March 17th to March 27th. Caltrans will host Clean California Community Days throughout the state. Again, if you would like to participate, all you have to do is go to Clean California or cleanca.com to participate in a local cleanup event. As always, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.